Hello, and welcome back to another Minecraft build showcase video. Today, I'm showing off another map I made called Quartz City. This was one of my most well-received maps so far, and I enjoyed making it. So let's hop into it. As you might notice, we are on a little platform. This is the PvP platform, just to give a quick run through on how it works, what this map was made for and stuff, is when players drop down to go combat other players, they won't be able to get back up onto the platform. So just a simple 2-block thing. Over here is where they select their kits, armor, weapons, and food and stuff, which they can all combat with over time. And yeah, now let's run through this map. Now, the map itself is called Quartz City because it's a city sort of scheme built out of quartz. The idea and inspiration for this map was taken from Mirror's Edge, if you've ever seen that video game. I haven't played it personally, but I've seen some trailers and other people play it, which gave me inspiration to go kind of with this color scheme. So for this map, since it was supposed to be PvP, another inspiration for this was trying to have rooftop battles. Most PvP on the other maps that I have created and that were on the server that I was making this for were all flat. So everybody was on the ground, just sort of fighting it out. They could run around quickly, maybe avoid a tree or two or a building. But it wasn't really sort of rooftop where you had to jump. You had a chance of falling and taking fall damage, things like that. So all these buildings that you kind of can see the rooftops of right now, you can actually jump to from rooftop to rooftop. There's a few places that you can get up on top of rooftops, yeah, but that was the main idea when I started this map. So that was the plan, rooftop battles. The first thing I did when I made this map was build a building, which was this one right here. This red one. I kind of built it sort of having sort of smooth edges and a stripe of red, kind of getting my basics down of how I want building to sort of look. And I think it turned out pretty well. I later connected it to the smaller building to give some more sort of depth. After I made the building, I actually got an idea of roadway systems so that when people were on the ground, they sort of have an instinct of their basic surroundings and know where they are in the map. So I actually designed a roadway system that has 3 levels to it. You have the main road, which is ground level. You have your upper road right here, that is the high road, I guess. And then you have the subterranean road that goes underground. And I kind of designed all the roads first, which gave me a scale of how big I wanted to make the map. For this map, I decided to go extra big since I felt most of my other maps were kind of on the smaller side. So I decided to go with a huge map, which actually which really helped it become a successful map and why people liked it. But there's other reasons for that too. So I should probably start with the buildings. So as I said, I had the original building right there, and then I started actually laying down the floor plan of other buildings. So this building is a unique building, it has sort of an X design. Most of the other buildings are kind of square, but they all kind of have their unique sort of structure to them. Some are linking together. Some go over the road system. Uh, Things like that. I basically just made a square on the ground of sort of a huge square. Just gonna make a small one. And I just sort of built it up over time. After I figured out where all the buildings were, uh, and the roadway system was built, uh, I sort of started building up these buildings. I didn't add these colors in them. I knew I was going to, but I built them up so that they were square, so that I could kind of get a sense of how I kind of wanted them to grow. I also adjusted things so that there might be more difficult jumps than normal, or easier jumps than normal. Some buildings I added extra features to on different height elevations so that like that one's 1 block smaller, so that people can still jump back and forth between buildings, but so that it feels like there's an elevation difference between all the buildings in here, which you can kind of clearly see as there's elevations. I had a difficult time trying to figure out how I wanted people to climb back up on top of buildings. So I came up with a few ways they can do that, which it's mostly from the upper road here. You can jump down onto stairways here, you can jump on rooftops over here. Uh, that's another way. Over here, I made it so that you can get to these different pockets here through stairwells. And then you can jump across here. I hadn't planned the spawn point at all. I'll talk about that a little later. But I just kind of wanted movement. So I kind of designed all the rooftops after the buildings were created. I added these little air conditioning units, as I sort of think of them, to the rooftop buildings, because that's where most flat roof appliances go on big buildings. It's just on the roof. It gives people cover, so they can hide behind here, and they can uh, sort of throw arrows across the map of at each other. After I kind of got that layout down, I decided to make these walls. These walls are sort of just to give it sort of that feeling skyscraper effect. I just variated it so that players don't have much place to go, but it wasn't square, so they still felt they were sort of running around a city sort of sense, but they knew it was a wall, which I think makes kind of ties it all together, because you don't want people leaving the map in a PvP arena, or else, they can just run away infinitely or die if there's void out there, depending on how the server set it up. So yeah, so after I made all the buildings, got that, I started adding color. Each of these buildings are unique. They all have their own separate sort of color variation to them. Some wrap around, some are just slits, and some have extra slits that go up and down. Some stagger. All of these buildings have their own unique color scheme to them, different variations. So yeah, you can just see that as I sort of fly around. They're all unique. Not just the size of the building, but also the colors. So yeah, so let's go underground. Originally, I was planning to make underground sort of like a subway system, maybe with some shops in here that they could hide in and get away from enemies. But that was I took a huge amount of time making all those buildings on top, since they're all unique and they're just all built up. So I just decided to make this sort of a subterranean thing so that players could run down here, have different paths to go with the roadways a little bit so that they could like shake people off their tails, and stuff like that. So yeah, it just sort of worked out pretty well. not what I was expecting, but I think it adds to the map a lot. Uh, I didn't add grass. Everything is made out of clay or quartz or some solid sort of looking block. Um, I made this sort of feel like grass so that it could have that sort of well-maintained, sort of funny atmosphere. Also on the roadways, you might have noticed I put orange stripes along here instead of yellow or white stripes that you normally might see on a roadway, just to sort of add to the presence of this is not realistic, but it sort of semi-realistic. Just kind of adds character to it. So, yeah, after I made all the buildings, I looked around for a spawn point, and I'm like, that's the biggest building there is here, which has the flattest roof. As you might see, it's actually the tallest one as well. And so I'm like, okay, let's just put it up here. Which is actually really nice because players will spawn in here. They can get used to their quick surroundings, get their kit, and then they can kind of peek over without actually dropping down and get a sense of the scale of this map. See how big it is, sort of see where they want to go. They can run off in 3 directions. They can even run off here if they choose to, but it's sort of not nice. So let me get rid of this block. So yeah, people can get back up here if they want through different ladder systems, from rooftop jumping. If they just want to sort of say hi to fellow PvPers before they jump off. So you can get everywhere in this map. Another thing you might notice with the buildings is after I started creating them, I'm like, I'm not going to put interiors in them, or else I'd have to fully decorate them and it'd actually change how the city sort of looks and feels. Just because I'd have to like probably use glass and you could go inside and hide. Inside the buildings are just hollow. Uh, black space. You might be wondering why I didn't light it up. The server disabled mobs by default, so I didn't have to worry about lighting things up, which was another handy feature, since it was all player PvP. So, yeah, so that's sort of how I designed the map. How it played was actually kind of differently. People would spawn up here, of course. They'd jump off the buildings, and most of the combat actually happened in this zone, the hot zone, which actually kind of surprised me, but didn't. Bows in this were underpowered. Normal Minecraft bows don't do that much damage if players are wearing full iron armor, and some players had diamond. So it kind of just sort of defeated the purpose of using arrows too often. Unless we are really, really good at it and we're able to use the knockback effect efficiently, there was no reason to use your bow too much. Besides maybe just whittling down a player before they got to you, so I have a slight better chance of winning the duel. But yeah, so PvP on the rooftops was actually thrown out quite quickly. But I still still added a feature to it. So yeah. But yeah, another thing that the server just started doing with other maps is added jump pads. So jump pads were just pressure plates on the ground on top of like a diamond block or something, and it sort of just boost you in the air and make you fly forward. That actually helped the design of the map a ton. Since this is such a huge map and it's sort of open in some areas and the roadway, when players are running away from each other, it's sort of hard to catch up with each other. And, it kind of becomes the impossible game of hitting someone, they run away, and you can never catch them because everybody runs at the same speed. So, the jump pads actually added the effect that you could jump in variation heights and be able to catch up to people or run away better. Uh, you sort of playing your strategy a little differently, which was fun. They were also added to the rooftops, which allowed you to like jump across building heights that you weren't able to before. Added some gameplay and sped up people running around the map. Uh, they weren't like everywhere, so you'd have to sort of plan out and sort of see where the pressure jumps were beforehand if you wanted to use them well. But yeah. What else? Uh, Originally there was glass on the roof so that ender pearls couldn't jump out. Uh, I didn't add the special block, but there's a special block in the game that it doesn't allow uh, entities, sort of like arrows or ender pearls, to go through them. I think it's like a bugged out piston head, so it's invisible still, and light passes through fine, and players can pass through it. It's also used for the spawn point, so that players can just ender pearl back in. Um, but yeah, uh, yeah. So that's sort of the map. Uh, I mean, there's alleyways between the buildings in some parts. Added sort of a nice claustrophobic sort of getting lost effect, but still you can sort of get out if you wanted. But yeah, just for effect, let me turn the time to night. And you can see that it's not really well lit up, but the main road it was, so that players could still have a way through. The underground is totally lit up. But yeah, I really enjoyed making this map. I could probably make some improvements to it now that I look at it. It's been a while since I've made this, but for what it is and for what it was, I think this is my best map that I've made so far in my catalog of all the maps I've made. So I hope you enjoyed it and have a good day.